So the first question that a lot of teachers ask me is, why would you bother flipping? It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort on your part, but what difference does it actually make? Well, I will list you 9 reasons why I would flip my classroom and why I encourage other teachers to flip theirs. Firstly, it helps busy students or those students who are absent from class, as well as teachers who are absent from class, making sure they don't miss out on the content that's going on, because they can actually access all that content without being in class. They can catch it up in their own time. The activities are there for them to do. And this whole design actually enables them to not miss the learning. It helps students of all ability levels as well, because they are in control. If you are watching this video, you might be pausing it, you might rewind it to rewatch a section, or you might have this on double speed so you can get through the video faster. And those things are actually an aspect of differentiation depending on your level of pre-knowledge around flipped learning, and also depending on your level of being able to receive English. So if your students struggle with English, this flipped learning approach allows them to slow down the videos. They can reread things twice. You can put on closed captions if you like as well on your videos. Particularly, I use YouTube quite a lot because it automatically does the closed captioning for you, which is fantastic. And that just then allows your students that more accessibility to the content that you're giving them. Flipped learning also is going to increase your student to teacher interactions, as well as your student to student interactions during your class. It's going to allow you to know your students better because you have so much more time with your students. It's going to allow for real differentiation based on your knowledge of your students, where they're at, where you're trying to get them to, and what their next steps need to be. Flipped learning is going to change the way that you manage your classroom. You should no longer be the person at the front presenting content to your students. You should now actually not have a front to your classroom. You should be able to walk around and help your students a lot more, changing how you manage things, because you don't need kids to stop and be quiet and listen for an extended period of time anymore. They're going to be actively talking and engaging and doing the learning practically. Another thing about flipped learning is that it can actually educate parents. If I'm sending home videos like this for my students to watch, it also means that my parents can watch it. And so if the student's struggling to actually get the concept of the content that's being presented to them, their parents can actually come and watch the video and listen to it or whatever. They might read the excerpt that you're going to give them, that content, and they can help their student to understand it. They can help their child to understand it. Now, flipped learning is also going to allow you to invert Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy looks like this, and essentially what's going to happen is that normally in your traditional classroom you spend a lot of time at the bottom of the taxonomy doing those very basic kind of identifying and developing an understanding or some kind of knowledge. But what I actually am going to tell you is that when you flip your classroom, that bit's going to be the bit that the students do at home, and it's these higher order bits, this creating, this analysing and evaluating, that you're going to spend more time on in your classroom. And that really, when you think about it, is when your students need you most, is when they're trying to do that higher ordering, that deeper thinking. That's when they need you there to help them. And finally, the last thing that's going to do is increase class time for rich, engaging and meaningful learning. We're going to move away from class time that is 80% you standing at the front talking to your students, and instead have your students being the ones that are talking, that are asking the questions, where you're asking questions of individual students to their level of learning and where they need to go next. This really can change and revolutionize the way that you teach. And I, for one, am a huge fan of this approach because I've seen it in action, I've seen what it can do, and it is actually fantastic.